All right, everybody. Thank you for joining GEG Asia Pacific, Google Educator Groups Asia Pacific. This is something we do like 3 times a year. This is our summer version of a couple of days. We're going to talk about theme in education. And in this case, it's going to be AI. And this session is using Google's AI tool, Gemini, in the social studies classroom. So we're going to look at some different ways to apply Gemini. We will talk a little bit about that AI debate in this session. GEG Nagoya, us, are hosting this one. You can see right there. And GEG Delhi NCR in India has got something cool for you tomorrow. It's going to be in English and in Hindi. Feel free to have a look. Even if you don't speak Hindi, you'll find some cool stuff happening, I'm sure, as you always do with GEG Delhi NCR. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here because I want to jump right into it. All right, hide that. Boom, boom. Okay, so this is Gemini, Google's AI tool in a social studies context, and this is a GEG Asia Pacific initiative. My name's Nate Gildart. I'm an MYP Individuals and Societies and a DP history teacher, so I teach IB, and I'm also an EdTech nerd. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me with Social Studies Samurai or Nathan Gildart on Twitter. socialstudiessamurai.com, by the way, or Japanese History Trip. And if you want access to some of these slides, go to edtechtrainer.com. I'll remind you of that later because we're here to talk about Gemini. All right. So in this session, we're actually going to look mostly at strategies, ways that you can use Gemini. You can use other AI tools, of course, but I prefer Gemini. We've got a Google Workspace for Education account where I'm at. And I think it's pretty smooth. We're going to look at things like creating unit plans, lesson plans, but more importantly, the one I like the most is how students can learn to use AI to learn, because we're all dealing with that copy and paste thing. And so in this session, we are going to talk about academic honesty, teaching students to learn what they need to learn, and then finding ideas for activities, units, and that kind of thing, and maybe 1 or 2 other cool things. Probably about a half hour today, not too long. So we're going to start with Gemini. What is it? I mean, yeah, we all know it's an AI tool. AI is all the rage. I decided to go into Gemini and ask the question, what is Gemini? And so the text that you see right here was actually generated by Gemini, the AI. So again, it's telling you content creation, research and brainstorming, saving time. Yay. Every teacher loves that one, right? Enhancing learning experiences. I do think that students like to use AI, and with that guidance, they actually will jump in. And they need to learn how to use this, right? Even as the educators in the room, we still don't really know how to use AI very well, I don't think. There are some trailblazers out there. I am not one of them. But hey, let's get there. Communication, accessibility, professional development. There's loads of different ways you can use AI. We're going to, again, look at how to use this in the class. But I want to start with academic honesty. We know that AI is actually just faster at academic dishonesty. People freaking out over using ChatGPT, OpenAI, to write an essay for me or do my homework and that kind of thing. And yes, that's an issue, but really it's only just faster to do that than it was before. We've all had students copying stuff from a book in the library. That'd be my generation. Just copying things word for word, or even copying their friends, or having someone tell them what to write. So this academic dishonesty is nothing new. It's just a little bit faster, perhaps maybe not even as accurate, because we know AI tools, we have to double check them, right? They're not always correct. It all depends on the sources that they're pulling from, right? I think when students learn to use AI properly, they can, maintain that sense of pride in the work they do. Yeah, I used some AI to help me out here, but I actually did the work. We can guide them to use sources correctly, including AI, and we can teach them how to cite sources. And if you're an IB teacher, AI is allowed to be used for things like the extended essay and the internal assessments. So we need to be teaching kids how to use this stuff properly, right? Another thing too, AI detectors are not perfect. Just a quick anecdote. A couple years ago, we did have students jumping right to ChatGPT to do some of their work for them in the high school. And the way we dealt with that was just sitting down and having a simple viva voce, taking, the work that they, purportedly wrote, and just highlighting some of the concepts and some of the, key vocabulary where you think, I don't think a grade 9 or a grade 10 student would really use this from their own mind. Yeah, maybe copy it from a source and put it perfectly in this context, but maybe they don't get it. Let's have a viva voce discussion and kind of see if they know what they're talking about. And that kind of shows that they really didn't know, in our cases anyway, they didn't know what they were doing. All right. They didn't understand the topic. They didn't understand the vocabulary nor the concepts very well. So we can say, hey, you got to go back and do this again. Let's work on this together. We don't like to punish. We like to support, right? So academic honesty has always been there. AI is making it a little bit faster. We just have to find ways to support students. And I think the best way to first do that is teach them how to use AI. Which brings me to the first point I want to make with today's little discussion, teaching students to learn what they need to learn. And we're going to jump into Gemini, and we're going to use some of these prompts. We're going to kind of have a conversation with Gemini. So let me bounce back and forth here from my slide deck to Gemini. Okay, so take this prompt, for example. What do I need to learn to fully understand the First World War? Now I'm asking the AI, so let's go to Gemini here. And it says, how can I help you today, right? And if you note down here, there's where we enter our prompt. So, I can type in or I can just copy and paste. Note I can use my voice to do this. I like that accessibility feature. And again, most tools have that. And you can upload images. We'll talk about images later. But let's, I did this with my students in grade 10 this year. And I said, okay, let's figure out what we know and what we don't know. First, they did a bit of a brainstorm at their table and, okay, what do you know about the First World War? What do you know? And in the end, as I expected, not a lot. So I said, okay, let's talk, and we did this as a class activity. They didn't access Gemini. I had it projected on the board. And I said, what question we need, what questions would we come up with to find out what we need to learn? Basically, what don't I know that I should learn to know, or do I need to know to understand why the First World War is important to study? And so the students in their groups, they came up with their questions, and I pulled a couple and said, okay, let's test these out. And this is one. So here we go. What do I need to learn to fully understand the First World War? I'm going to, click enter or click submit. And the AI is going to generate this. So look at this, understanding the First World War key areas of study. Now, remember, this isn't like the 100% answer, right? You could go to other AI and it might give you something slightly different. You could put this in on a different day and it might be a little bit different. But this is a good starting point. Diplomacy and international relations. And it talks about the alliance system, imperialism, colonialism, nationalism, good. Military history. All right. Tactics, technology, and battles. Okay. Social and cultural history. I mean, this is a good list, right? Here, look, the Treaty of Versailles, the interwar period that leads to World War II. For me as the teacher, I can say, yeah, this is a pretty good list. And I like that it gives us other areas of interest. Here, let's just zoom in a bit more. Comparative history, the impact on different countries. Love it. Global history, impacts on regions outside of Europe. Great stuff. And then books and documentaries and things like that. And of course, I could share this and export it. I can send an email, which is kind of cool. And sometimes it gives you links to other sources. So let's go back and try another one here. Let's go with what schools of historical thought argue, and let's say argue responsibility for World War I. And if there's people watching in real time, I got my phone going here. I can see your comments. Don't expect a lot, but you never know. So, and in fact, let me just take this one and go, is there anything else I should learn? Let's see what it says. Okay, let me close that here because it's bugging me. Excellent question. The other areas I mentioned previously were solid foundation, but there's other dimensions, right? Role of the U.S., important. They joined in 1917, but they played a role even before that. The Russian Revolution, colonialism, science and medicine, big deal, and technology. And how artists, right? The cultural and artistic response, good. Would you like to focus on any of these questions? And I could take that and keep going down that rabbit's hole if I want. Let's look at another prompt, though. What schools of thought? Now, this is getting a bit deeper. These would be kids in high school, right? Checking this one out. So let's just zoom in and see that. What schools of historical thought argue responsibility for World War I? Let's enter that and see what happens. Schools of thought on responsibility. All right, so there's the German war guilt thesis, dominant view after the war. New history, mid 20th century. This would be, probably revisionism, right? Structuralism, also called functionalism. And so I can look through these and then see a few different things. Now, what I'm noticing here as a history teacher, I want to know, what would an orthodox historian say? And let's spell it correctly. Even if I don't spell it correctly, it'll help me out, though. The orthodox historian's view on the cause of World War I. Note that it says an orthodox historian would likely adhere to closely to the German war guilt thesis. And then militarism, the Schlieffen Plan, Austrian ultimatum to Serbia, German responsibility. They might even mention the blank check. That doesn't come up here, but I heard about the blank check. And I just asked the question, the blank check, and it tells me what it is. So yes, you've heard correctly, the blank check, blah, blah, blah. See how I'm like having a conversation with the AI? It's pretty cool, right? All right, so let's go back though. What would a revisionist historian say? Now note that I haven't gone and put World War I or anything, because the AI knows I'm still talking about causes of the First World War and responsibility. All right, shared responsibility, alliance system, miscalculations in area and errors of Russian role. Let's just go with one more here. What we saw the structuralist, the orthodox. What would an I think I'm spelling that correctly. Okay. Let's say perspective. I should be able to spell that. That's embarrassing. I think there's an S on the end of that. Not Annalise. Anal, that's it. Yeah, I needed 2 N's and an S. And all right, not 2 L's. It's likely you're thinking of the Anal School of History. So see that I've made that mistake, and that was a real one, by the way, just to be transparent. So they're mentioning, this, so let's go with one more. What do post-revisionists say? Let me zoom out a little bit. And again, it tells you what post-revisionism is, and then gives you a few other things. Now, again, you'd want to go to other sources and corroborate and make sure that this jives. But this, you see how the students learning what they need to learn? They're not just being told what to do. Let's try something else here. What approaches should I take to investigate the reasons why women were granted the right to vote in many countries? So I'm just completely starting fresh. Let's say this is a topic I want to study, and I'm trying to figure out, what can I do? What approaches should I take? All right, so it says, do a comparative analysis, cross-cultural study, or focus on specific regions. Do a thematic one, political, economic, social, cultural, war and conflict. Do a case study, in-depth historical analysis, timeline. Do you see how it's not giving me the answers? It's giving me ideas. And this is what we want students to do when they're using AI. I mean, to find, facts and dates and things like that, I think that's fine. I mean, you can do that with a Google search, right? But to figure out how to learn what I need to learn, this, I think, is a useful tool. And my students, they're getting better at that. Now, let me look at something else. Like, let's say you're in a grade 6 class and you're doing, like paleoarchaeology or archaeology or something like that. And I want to find out what people lived in. Like, I mean, an 11 or 12-year-old mind might say, how did people live? Where did they live? So the AI is creating a text image. Now, this is not necessarily finding a real one. So I have these images that I'm looking at. Note I can download them. Please, like maybe they'd say to the teacher, hey, what's with this? I heard that they used mammoth bones. Please show me a real photo of mammoth bone dwelling. Show of a mammoth bone dwelling. Well, let's see what this does for us. A challenge in finding. Unfortunately, there are no existing photographs of an intact one, but notice here, it's got a reconstructed one. Notice it's got, if I mouse over it, well, I didn't even have to mouse over. It's got Wikimedia Commons. It's got the source. While this isn't a photograph of an actual dwelling, it provides a visual representation, right? So that is kind of cool. Let's go back and stick on that theme. So I'm like, okay, what other materials might have been used? So I'm going to say, please write a text response. because I don't want them to give me images anymore. I want to see it for myself. I want to read it. I want a text response. Notice it says generating text and images. Here are images featuring dwellings from Europe, and I specifically said Europe, stone and clay. I mean, that's kind of cool. But it didn't answer. Answer in text, please. Want to be polite. I know it's AI, but I can't generate new images, but look at this. And now it tells me wooden thatch, wooden animal hides, stone and clay, mammoth bones. These are just some of the materials. What were other materials? Turf, ice, and snow. I mean, think of the Inuit, for example, in northern Canada. Fish nets, twigs and branches. I mean, this is cool, right? See, I'm learning what I don't know. All right. So that was an example of like how we can teach kids to use AI to learn about what they don't know, right? Now let's look at finding ideas for activities and units. This is very much a teacher-driven thing. So these are things that we're going to, pop in and out of and, pop them into Gemini and kind of see what they are. So it could be like a history mystery. Find the sources of historical images. What I'm going to do, I'm actually going to pop an image in here about your data. Yeah, I already know that. So I'm going to look for one, and I'm going to search for it actually. I'm going to do enlightenment salon. Yes, this is contrived. I'm going to pop that one in there, and I could add some text. What is this image? Let's say I've uploaded from my computer. Well, this is uploaded from my computer, right? So let me click on that, and you'll be interested in the response here because there's people in it. Now note, the AI says, sorry, I can't process images that contain people. However, I can extract the text in the images. And it tells me what it is. And I know as a teacher, this is exactly what it is. But what the student can do is then try to do a Google search and corroborate things, right? Find websites that might have that image and then find out exactly what it is. And this talks a little bit about, Madame Geoffrin and, her role in the Enlightenment and her salon and that kind of thing. So, there's a way that we can use, image searching to find, like the answers in a text kind of thing. Let's see. History mystery, for example. Let me go here. I like this one because Tom Standage, I recently read a book called The Victorian Internet on the Telegraph. That's where I got this idea. In what way is the telegraph an early form of the internet? And I like this response. And again, this is probably different from the first time I put it in, right? So it was an early form of the internet because it allowed for the rapid transmission of information over long distances and blah, blah, blah. And it goes in to talk about Samuel Morse. It's in the book. Morse code. It's in the book. So again, students can come up with their own ideas of what they want to find out. I mean, look at this. How do I analyze a political cartoon? I could go to a website. Yes, you could. But I'm going to pop this into the AI and kind of figure this out. See what it says, right? Sure, here are some tips. The main characters and the objects in the cartoon's message. And, it has those question prompts. I mean, me as a teacher, if I'm creating a slide deck, I can just copy and paste this in, right? Let's see if I want. Can you create that in a series of slides for a presentation? And again, I would acknowledge that, hey, I got this from AI. You had to put this in where you got your sources. We're working on improving Gemini's ability. We expect the feature will come soon. Okay, so I can't do it. But I could go back and take the text from here that I like and put it in. And always cite, though, I got this from, Gemini. You definitely want to cite where you get your material. We've got to model that for our students, right? You can generate images with specific aspect ratios. Let's do this. Let's see. I want to create a lesson plan, right? Create a student. Before I do this, and let's be proper with my capitalization. Note on the side here, I've got, it keeps a record of the things that I've been looking at recently, which I think is kind of cool because I can go back and see what my conversation with the AI was. All right, so a student-driven lesson on prohibition in America. Objectives gives me materials. This is stuff that I can, use to develop in whatever learning management system that I'm using. Let's see, primary sources. Let's see, I want a political cartoon or a newspaper. I'm going to copy that, and I'll just show you why in a minute. And my intro, 2 to 3 class periods, it's saying research and analysis. Extension activities and that. I'm going to type in here, can you make this 90-minute lesson? Because that was quite a lot, right? And I might only have one time. And note that it's giving me like the times now, right? The intro, 15 minutes, that kind of thing. Now I'm going to paste, can you share, I want to type that properly, share primary sources, newspapers, political cartoons on prohibition. And let's see what it gives me. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, so it's giving me places like, okay, I can go look for Library of Congress, Chronicling America, Digital Public Library of America. So it's not actually giving me the source, but saying, hey, go to these places. It's making me do the work, but giving me some ideas of where to go and where to get started. Love it. Let's go back here. Let's say I want a 90-minute lesson on the Mughal Empire. I'm looking at imperialism in a broad context. Not just the modern, the modern period kind of thing. Imperialism, let's face it, has existed since people, started living in cities and those cities were growing. Oh, you know what? Let me show drafts though, because I've used this. I've looked for this. I've actually done this, creating a 90-minute. See, and this is why you want to go back, right? Because the AI might give you more. Create a 90-minute lesson plan for the Mughal Empire. There we go. Right, so I've got my objectives. I got materials I should look for, but I've got my roadmap. Right, I've got ideas that I can work with. Again, even for differentiation, right? And it's not always perfect, How about a unit plan idea? This one I popped in, playing around. Let me post that right there. What ideas do you have for a 4-week unit on the political spectrum? Let's see what it gives me. And I will tell you that if you look at politics, it might tell you, we don't take a political perspective. Maybe try this. But just a 4-week unit on the political spectrum, and it gives me my ideas. You wouldn't do the political spectrum for 4 weeks, but it gives me all these ideas that I can work with, right? I love that. Okay, how about summarizing a piece of text? I've got students that, for example, are going to use this worksheet, but I'm thinking, wow, that's way too much. Let me just copy that. This is a worksheet I have used in my class. And I'm going to add to it because there's more. This is a long piece of text. I'm going to paste that in too. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to take this stuff. I'm going to paste that in. And I'm going to paste this in. Whoops. Okay, that, when I zoom out here, you can see that is a long piece of text, right? So let me submit that. Oh, wait, hold on. Can you summarize this text, please? Paste that in. Let's see what happens. Oh, and it missed a whole bunch of that stuff. Excuse me. Let me take the longer bit here. I apologize. Summarize this. We don't have to be totally polite. Okay, and now it put that into 2 paragraphs for me. Of course, I'm going to have to read this and decide, is this a good summary? Is this something I'm going to use? But the point is, you can summarize text. Let's see. Let's summarize a web page, and I've chosen one. Yeah. Let me just copy that. Please summarize this web page. And it's a web page, not the website. I found something I want to use. It's quite long. I just want to quickly go over with students. And it's taken a whole web page, which let me post this right here and show you what it looks like actually. Time travel students using AI with schools. And it's got all this stuff in here, but it's just taken that down and put it into a very quick, succinct thing that I might want to use for whatever my purpose is. Create a rubric. Let's see. Please create a rubric that assesses the consequences of industrialization. Let's see. That assesses presentation. Let's say slides presentation on the consequences of industrialization. See what happens. Okay, and then it gives me the things that I might want to, use as my, criteria. And of course, you'd have to, kind of fix that a little bit and put it into, whatever tool you're using, spreadsheets or, a Google Doc or whatever. Now let's go with quiz generation. Now this is a tricky one, right? What I'm going to do is take this vocabulary, and of course, a lot of online tools, they'll actually create, whoops, we're going into Gemini here. They will create for you a quiz within it if you're using Quizlet or quizzes or whatever, right? But this is just another way to use it. So I'm going to go to the top of this, make a quiz with, and note I just copied and pasted the stuff. The AI should be able to read the stuff, right? Match the term with its correct definition. Whoops. So I can't help you with that. Well, that actually, make a quiz, make a 10 question quiz with this. Okay, and notice now it says choose the best answers. I've got a 10 question quiz that it's made for me here. Make a matching definition quiz with this. And I'm putting the colon in here just to show that these are, you got to look at this stuff to match. And there we go. Match the term with its correct definition. And if you go and look at this, you'll see, oh, look, it's giving me the answer key and all that. And notice it's got quizzes here. It's got sources here that it's made this for me because it's taken the words that I wanted to use. And they happen to be somewhere else because I've made these on Quizlet. Let's just kind of check that. WordMint, no, I didn't make this on quizzes, but I'm kind of curious. No, it's not quite the one, but anyhow, again, not perfect AI, but pretty cool. I want to show you one more thing, but I got to stop sharing my screen here and then reshare my screen. Here's one idea for kind of a fun activity. All right. Now, there's a big debate out there with music, creating it. This is not about creativity. Let's say you have your students researching a topic and you say, write the stanzas of a song. And Suno, which is being taken to court actually by music companies, and that's not the debate I want to get into right now, but I'm happy to have the debate. And let's say I want to create a song. Now, what I did, I took the Irish potato famine, and all I did was create a song that is sad but optimistic about the Irish potato famine and families being separated. That's the prompt that I used. And so let me share my screen so you can see what I'm going to do. And I have to share my Chrome tab with you. So I'm going to share this one. All right. And I'm just double checking that you can see this. And I'm going to turn on my audio here. All right. So now you can see what it looks like. So with that Irish potato family, families being separated, sad but optimistic. Let's play that and see what happens.
Fields once green, now barren dust. Father's gone, can't stay with us.
Let's go down to the chorus here.
There's tears, a river can't abide. empty bowls and empty hands for distant lands.
Music awards.
Oh, the famine, oh, the grief, lost in shadows can't find relief. Father gone in.
Now, the thing is this. Now, let me just stop sharing that. Share my other screen again. Yeah, there's going to be a debate about that, and that's okay. Let's have the debate. Of course, I am completely against breaking copyright, and I actually play in a band, so that matters to me. And we'll see what happens. We're trying to figure this stuff out, but that's called Suno AI. I think it's kind of neat. Think of that class activity where, okay, you've learned about this now. Write a poem, and then we're going to turn it into a song. Using AI, just to kind of see what it comes up with. I think it is kind of an engaging activity for students. I would actually create the song myself. And just as a point, Suno AI maintains the copyright of anything that's been generated. So you want to keep that in mind, right? All right, so that's it. Let's just go back to the top here. That was Gemini, Google's AI in a social studies context. Some ways that you can use it. Again, we have to think about academic honesty. We do have to think about copyright and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to keep in touch, you can find me at Nathan Gildart on Twitter, or X, actually. Sorry, I'm old school. edtechtrainer.com if you want to find slides and things like that I use for these presentations. I'm working to fix my socialstudiessamurai.com website for more ideas, videos, activities, and things like that. Or find Social Studies Samurai on YouTube, or JapaneseHistoryTrip.com for 360 videos of cool places in Japan. Anyway, whether watching later or live, thanks a lot for joining me. There's going to be other cool stuff happening with GEG Delhi NCR tomorrow. And check us out, GEG Asia Pacific. If you Google search GEG APAC, you'll find our website. And there's loads of us all over the Asia Pacific region doing some pretty cool stuff. For now, I'm going to end that. Thanks for joining me. And let's figure out this AI thing, because I'm just a minnow here in the learning process as well. So let's share some ideas, folks. AI is here to stay. Let's figure out how to use it responsibly and ethically.